Welcome everybody to a ride and review of this absolutely beautiful Ducati Hypermotard 698 Mono. This is in the RVE colorway and it is very beautiful. I love getting the chance to test out any brand new platform from a motorcycle manufacturer. It's exceedingly rare nowadays that you get the chance to try out something brand new. Everything's kind of cross-platform, everything's kind of using an engine from something, a chassis from something else. But what we have in front of us here is all new. The chassis, the engine, the ethos, everything about this bike is brand new, and it's a bit of a head scratcher as to why Ducati built this bike, why they're not putting this engine or using this chassis for anything else, and what the hell was the point of this motorcycle other than Ducati maybe doing a little tax write-off to try to increase expenses to maybe just build a new bike? I don't know. Today's video is powered by the good folks over at Eurocycle. They sent over this motorcycle to me. I've had it for a couple of weeks now, really enjoying it. We got the chance to track test it. You guys will see that later in the video today. So this is going to be a very comprehensive review on this fantastic machine. Let me give you guys a little bit of an overview of the bike, but please do me a favor and hit that link below to Eurocycle and check out their inventory. They ship bikes all over the nation. We've worked with them for 4+ years now. I have a great relationship with them. They're great guys over there. If you're in their market for a Ducati, a BMW, an Aprilia, anything European, they also have used motorcycles and Royal Enfields, Triumphs, more normal-ish bikes like that. Go and hit that link down below. Okay, so the coolest part about this motorcycle has to be the engine. This is a brand new motor, but it does share half of the components with an existing motor because this single cylinder 645cc engine is actually half of an old school 1299 Panigale engine. If you do the math there, that adds up to roughly 1299 cc's. So this thing has an incredibly wide bore and a pretty short stroke for a single cylinder. So it likes to rev out. It actually doesn't have that much bottom end punch. It actually loves to rev out and do its whole business that way. Ducati also built this new chassis for this motorcycle, as I mentioned, which is pretty neat. And the other cool thing that they did with this bike is they threw all of their existing knowledge and understanding about how to build top-shelf MotoGP bikes, race bikes, track day bikes, and applied it to this. So this single cylinder has an up and down quick shifter, traction control, rear ABS that you can turn off, wheelie control, all kinds of crazy stuff that we have not really seen in this kind of supermoto category. And supermoto purists might say, yeah, that's not a real supermoto, it's too heavy, it's too big. But if we consider the KTM 701 and the Husqvarna 701, I guess the KTM's not listed as the 701, you know, the 690 SMCR, if we call those supermotos, we have to call this a supermoto because we're working with 17-inch wheels, front and rear, dirt bike styling, a high front fender, a single cylinder engine, punchy, torquey, hooligan-style motorcycle. So to me, this is a supermoto bike. Ducati calls it the Hypermotard, and with as much power as this thing makes, I would also probably call it a hyper supermoto or something to that effect. Base level of power is about 76 horsepower, if I remember surgery correctly. If you put a fancy exhaust on it and run the Shell oil or whatever, I think you can make upwards of 80 horsepower with this single cylinder. And having this motorcycle weigh about, I think it was like 360 pounds, that's pretty darn impressive. So we're here in this little lot. I would love to do for you guys a small kind of slow speed demonstration because this bike really works best in slow speeds. All right, we swing a leg over the Ducati, the Hypermotard. Relatively tall seat height. I think it's 34 inches or so, 34 and a half, something like that. And the seat is hard as a board. I mean, this to be expected. It's supposed to be this track-oriented hooligan toy of a motorcycle. Using a totally different dash than I've ever seen in any other Ducati product. And again, this is why I'm like, what kind of like side quest was Ducati looking to accomplish with this machine? You see, we have DWC as Ducati wheelie control. We have ABS. We have TC, which is Ducati traction control. So you got a lot of parameters here, and we'll show you guys a quick demonstration. Go ahead and turn it on. It is so weird to turn a Ducati on and to hear that. Ducati has not made a single cylinder engine for production purposes I believe ever. The supermoto wasn't a production motorcycle, if memory serves me correctly. So we'll listen to this really quick here. It's very similar to the KTM, but it revs so hard for a single cylinder style engine. Hydraulically actuated clutch here as well, which is nice. You get a really nice pull from the lever over here. You put the bike into gear, you feel that it does this like anti-stall thing. If you put it right there, you see the revs increase a little bit. You can actually hear it. Probably lets you take off without ever hitting the gas. Let's see. Yeah, we're away. That's pretty cool. So that's kind of the theme of this motorcycle, is it's sort of like a hooligan bike for dummies. And that's kind of weird when you think about the type of people that would want this motorcycle would be very high-skilled riders, right? They'd be riders that could, you know, do crazy stunts, you know, pull stoppies, do all kinds of fun stuff. And the wheelie control I find very interesting. So you'll see if I try to do a quick little clutch up, as soon as the clutch pulls, it cuts power and then tries to do like this weird chase it out wheelie thing. If you just add gas, then it seems to prefer that. If you just go, it'll let you pull a wheelie like that as we do a little stoppy there. And because you can disable rear ABS, you can slide the rear around. You can really goof around with this bike quite a bit. But let me see if I can turn this wheelie control off. All right, so now we're in sport. DWC is off. I hope I don't loop this thing. Probably shouldn't. Probably won't. And the thing I wanted to tell you guys is with a 645cc single, you really got to have the skills to pay the bills. This is not a bike that you'll just, you know, instantly jump aboard and be like, oh, I can just wheelie this thing, no problem, you know? It's still a pretty big, powerful supermoto bike. And you got to have the ability to know how to do wheelies and ride the thing. Don't get this motorcycle expecting to just do perfect balance point wheelies on it. Because even myself, like, I'm pretty bad at wheelies. I'm learning currently on a little Grom. But you got to actually know how to ride the damn thing if you want to ride it like a proper crazy hooligan motorcycle. It comes up pretty damn fast. So you really got to know how to, if you don't know how to do it, the bike won't just magically let you do those things. So why don't we go ahead and turn wheelie control back to 1, and let's go get this thing out on the road and talk about how it works as a road bike, because it actually is quite interesting when you've really stopped to think about why did they build this bike. All right, taking off with the Hypermotard. It is a torquey little thing. Holy crap. I've been riding this bike for a little bit, and the thing I struggle to understand is who this motorcycle is for and what environment it's meant to be ridden in. Because there's so many bikes, most bikes, you get on and you immediately understand who it's for, what you're supposed to do with it. If you jump on, you know, Panigale V2, you're like, okay, yeah, like this is a sport bike meant to be ridden on, you know, beautiful flowy canyon roads, on track, you know, all that stuff, right? If you jump on an Aprilia Tuareg 660, you think, oh, okay, yeah, I do long distance with it, it can do a little bit of off-roading, I get it. This motorcycle really defies convention, and it defies understanding. On the one hand, you could kind of think of it as a crazy fun, like, urban assault vehicle, right? You could kind of just, like, go out and ride around in suburban areas, in urban areas, have a ton of fun, pop wheelies, just be a hooligan with it, right? But it's also, like, not really good at cruising around on road. It is incredibly compromised. The seat is very hard. It's really aggressive, and it kind of just functions mainly as a toy. And you guys will see later on in this video when I do the track review portion of it, this bike basically only feels really, really good in super tight conditions. So I feel like the type of person who would want this would either live near extremely twisty mountain roads, we're talking like Dolomites in Italy and, you know, that part of Europe, or maybe like, you know, some crazy canyons in California that are really twisty, because fast flowing roads aren't really fun with this thing because the wind starts to get a little bit crazy with the buffeting. It doesn't have a particularly high top speed. So you'd want to really, you know, be on some really proper twisty roads with this. Otherwise, it just feels like kind of a waste. But at the same time, I don't really care about any of that, because this bike is such a riot to ride. It's so fun to have it leaned over and to hear that single cylinder just bark underneath you. It's got loads of personality and pizzazz, and it's super unique for what it is. There's not a whole lot of motorcycles on the market right now that can do what this thing does in the way that it does it. The Ducati suite of electronics that are in this thing are just incredible. The quick shifter, the TC, the ability, I mean, look at the way the TC, or the quick shifter, super fun. And I talk a lot about, you know, how kind of that 100 horsepower, 120 horsepower is the sweet spot for a motorcycle. But boy, this thing, because it's so lightweight, I don't miss the power at all. Holy crap, this thing's fast. For what it is, it's righteously fast. And I'll take advantage of this guy taking a right over here and show you guys. I'll click it down into first. You can see here, if you just, oh, I'm in neutral. If you just click and then pretty much wheelies whenever you want. And again, if you're not super comfortable with wheelies, you can rely on this traction control and the wheelie control to control things for you. Again, you are not going to hit sick-ass balance point perfect nooners with this thing and the computer just does everything for you. That is not what it does. All this bike really does is let you wheelie a little bit and not really just lube out. It doesn't have some kind of like perfect wheelie control that I've really found anyways either. I much prefer this motorcycle with wheelie control turned off, because then I feel like I have everything in my hand, and then it also exposes my own abilities to not really be able to do wheelies, and I find it more honest in that way. But this motorcycle, it's just constantly like pitching the front wheel. It feels so good side to side because it's so lightweight and peppy and fun. And you really do just want to attack like tight urban environments or super tight twisty roads with it and just enjoy the thing. Now, I have to talk about the fact that Ducati is choosing to not cross-platform anything of this motorcycle. So the engine is only going in this bike, the frame and the chassis is only going to be in this bike, and maybe it's a red herring, but I don't understand why Ducati would take the time to develop an entirely new engine, an entirely new frame, just to put it in one single bike that is so specialized and weird and won't really, you know, be able to be enjoyed. Jesus Christ, fucking Cybertruck drivers, man. Won't really be able to be enjoyed by a lot of people. The price is a bit exorbitant on this. It doesn't really do enough for most people. It is such a fun toy experience, you know? And if you can afford it and if you want to goof around with this, man, hats off. It's super fun. This bike rips. But for a lot of people, it doesn't make sense to own a motorcycle like that. I'll hit a quick little... I didn't even stop it. That's another thing too. The front brake feels tremendous on this thing. Such a nice, beautiful feeling front brake on this bike. Really, really love that. But yeah, so Ducati is not going to put this in like an adventure bike or an enduro bike. I prayed and wished they would put it in a new school supermoto motorcycle. I was really hoping that we would get something that would be like a, you know, a 300-pound little single-cylinder racer. Man, I was dreaming about that. I was like, oh my god, that would be so cool. But they're not going to do it. And so I don't really understand why they did it. Why did they build this bike in the first place if you're not going to put the engine or use the chassis for anything else? Because most people who are riding this bike that I've seen in the reviews and the comments, they freaking love it. Because it's a ton of fun. And it's really unique in the way that it revs out and the zestiness of it and the electronics. This is a really fun riding experience that I think could definitely be cross-platformed for a bunch of other stuff. I mean, you stand up on this machine. I'll show you guys here. We'll get it up in a second, cruising traffic a little bit. If you stand up with it, you can kind of see how you would get, you know, like a little adventure bike or an enduro bike out of it. And I also think it's interesting that Ducati has spent so much time and effort on the Desert X as their quote-unquote middleweight adventure touring option. They have a ton of great electronics on that thing to curb the power in off-road mode. They've learned a lot. They're now racing in motocross, right? Like, Ducati has learned so much about off-road riding. Perhaps they don't want to cannibalize Desert X sales by building a mono desert racer or a supermoto, or I don't know. Like, I don't understand why we don't get this engine in anything else. Well, boy, this thing is fun. You have to throw logic and caution to the wind with a bike like this. You have to not really think about so much of oh, what's it for, what's the market, what's this, what's that, what could I use it for. Like, dude, it's just fun. Like, this is motorcycling in such a pure form. It's like, it's got a big honking engine, it's lightweight, and it can do wheelies really well. What else do you want? Like, what else do you want? This is one of the most fun ways to enjoy motorcycling is a supermoto bike. But yeah, I have to say it again. If you think you're gonna jump on this and just be ripping balance point nooners everywhere, it's not gonna happen. I wish it could happen. It'd make me look a whole lot cooler, but it does not want to happen that way. Auto-Blip down works beautifully. I really think Ducati quick shifters are one of the best in the biz, both up and down. The Auto-Blip down works great, and to get a single cylinder to feel that good doing that is pretty impressive. Most single cylinders with Auto-Blip down feel atrocious. I don't know if it's because when you cut ignition, it's just the one single cylinder, or I don't know what it is, but I've always felt that the Auto-Blip down on a lot of single cylinders are pretty poor. Especially the ones I've tested on KTM models. But yeah, beautiful fueling, beautiful throttle feel, a super powerful and responsive front brake, to the point where it's one of the few street bikes I've ridden in recent memory that I go to grab the front brake and it feels pretty close to a race bike. It feels so direct, so tactile. I would not guess that it has ABS lines. It feels like I'm pushing direct to that front caliper, which is a Brembo caliper, by the way, pinching a very nice sized rotor, and so you will stop very nicely on this motorcycle. The dash, although it hasn't been used in any other Ducati model as far as I know, it's a teensy bit confusing. I think they tried to cram a lot of information in a very small package here. So the rev counter is pretty small, the mile per hour is pretty small, and then you have this thing off to the left that's kind of like a multi-function system that you can cycle through wheelie control and traction control and a lot of other systems. And I think ultimately it feels a little cluttered, but without putting a huge TFT on this, which wouldn't have fit the vibe of the bike, I think this is the best they could do. I don't think there was a way for them to really put, you know, like a big TFT on this and have it be all cycled or whatever. I don't think it would have looked good. And I can tell Ducati's very proud of this motorcycle because it doesn't really share a lot of components with other Ducati models, other than a couple gauge clusters or handlebar clusters. Like, this is the same as the Ducati Monster and as the, I think, not the Desert Sled, but the new version of scramblers have this. Like, this cluster is pretty normal, this one's the same as well, but everything else is bespoke, everything else is different, everything else is one-off for this bike. And it's so cool that they lopped a Panigale engine in half and then we're like, yep, we're gonna just sell it as is. But alright, with all that being said, we're here in flat, sad, curvy-less DFW, so let's jump over to the track and see what this thing can do full pin. And here we are on track with the Hypermotard 698 mono, and boy, what a rowdy little machine this is. Ultra precise, ultra lightweight. The Ducati single cylinder makes you want to just brake late, pile drive it into corners, hit them with utmost accuracy, and just get on that gas and just feel the torque out of this thing. It's crazy to ride a single cylinder with so much technology. This is by far the smoothest, nicest, easiest riding supermoto that I've ever taken on track and that I've ever ridden, to be honest. This thing's fantastic. Aerodynamically, it's a bit rough. You know, it's kind of hard to stay out of the wind with this thing. And because it's so light, your body position matters a lot on it, whether you lean back a little bit on it or you kind of get up on the pocket over that front tire, proper supermoto style. Lots of different ways to ride this thing. Out here on the back straight, take it all the way out there. I'm riding a teensy bit sloppy because we're talking while we're riding. We'll go ahead and brake deep here. Whoa! Oh yeah, insane braking performance on this motorcycle. One of the finest stock braking systems I've had the pleasure of feeling. Full gas, baby, wide open on this thing. Now, one thing to note, if you guys have seen reviews on this thing, you might think that you can ride it and just immediately become a supermoto star. You know, like the clips you see on Instagram, people backing it in, you got all the technology. It's not quite like that, because you still need the skills to pay the bills. And you guys will see I'm not backing it in and wheeling it like crazy because I don't really ride supermotos. I ride sport bikes, and I'm not used to riding in that way. And you guys see I'm hanging off of this motorcycle like I would a traditional sport bike. But check how late we can brake here. 5, 4, 3. Oh, goodness gracious, we could have braked even deeper. Look at that. We left some on the table. That's the funnest thing about this bike, is you can almost ride it like that bike in front of me, an R3. Some of the lines you take on this thing, it's like little bike lines. You use the grunt, it's not particularly fast, so you use tons of corner speed, brake ultra deep on that thing, and just really appreciate it. Look how late we can brake, and look how accurate we can be. Boom, right there, pick it up. It is so fun. It's my buddy Jeremy on the R3, looking good. Former stunt rider. He's now doing the track day thing. He's looking good on that bike, man. He's picking up some speed down 3 gears here. We'll hook it around, try to get some precision. Watch the torque of the mono. Look how we closed in 3 bike lengths between 2 corners. I think it's 70-something horsepower out of this bike. So we will pass Jeremy right here. Ultra deep on the brakes, but you could have done even more. If ever there's a bike that elicited better riding skills and better abilities, it's the Hypermotard 698. This bike is just a riot to ride, man. Look how precise you can be. It's so lightweight. Oh, wow. It's super different, too. That Ducati quick shifter is so beautiful to use. Pick it up off the apex. 5, 4, 3. Got a real tight corner here, so we'll brake right at that 3.5 marker, and it's a demo bike. We don't want to bend it. Pick it up, baby. So it's kind of funny because ergonomically it's you know, a bit awkward to ride at a fast track like this. You could certainly drag some knee on it. We'll see if I can touch a knee on this next corner here just to show y'all. Oh, almost touched it. If you're touching knee, you're going slow. And so you're kind of like in this weird spot with it where you kind of want to ride it like, you know, sport bike style. But if you run a smaller track, you could really take this thing and ride it that proper supermoto style. It's probably so fun on a go-kart track. We're here on a bit of a larger track. Check this out. Keep it pinned here. 4th gear, 5th gear, still pinned. Load the front end a little bit, back on the gas. Wide open. Catch a gear in the middle there while you transition over to the candy stripe. Bring it over here. Brakes down 2 gears. You could have braked way later than that, yeah. You could have braked way later than that. Oh, this thing's hilarious. Love this bike. Out to the paint. Woo! And what's nice is it's not super fast, so you can do lap after lap after lap. Oh, get it stopped, baby. Woo! Oh man, what a riot. Oh, I'm gonna mix my apex. Oh, just about. Get it loaded up, hit that. There we go. Oh, right here. Drift out. Catch the corner. Oh, so rewarding. Super rewarding. But yeah, if you don't already have supermoto skills, which I do not, I'll admit, you're not going to be wheeling this thing all over, backing it in everywhere. You still got to know what you're doing. Golly, look how deep you can brake. That's insane. That was one of the better ones I've gotten in turn one. The whole day my brain has been reacclimating to this crazy supermoto abilities of this bike. Holy moly, it can rip. I'm always feeling like I'm braking too early, not enough corner speed. Wide open brakes. Carry them out to there. The limit is so high. It's so high. Woo! Fifth gear, pin, load the front, back on the gas. Wide open, brakes, transition, candy stripe, back over here, brakes, down into second. Oh man, the Hyper is a fun bike. I feel like because I can see that front fender, I have crazy precision with the front end. I know exactly where that front tire is. And it makes you realize, because it's not particularly fast, that your riding technique can be a lot better. That you could take way better lines, crisper lines, cleaner lines, pick up the throttle a teensy bit sooner, brake a little bit deeper. This is a training tool bike, baby. Absolute training tool. Super, super fun to ride. Oh my goodness. I could do this all day, and guess what? I have been doing it all day. Let's get you guys back on street, shall we? As we carve up this little corner here. Ooh, let's drag a little bit of knee there. How fun. Now that we figured out the track performance of the Hypermotard, let's talk about the highway performance. That's something you're going to be doing a lot with this machine if you do intend on owning it as any type of, run-around bike, daily bike. I don't really think this is the right bike for dailies, and I think nobody's buying this motorcycle to run around on the daily. I think if you are, you've massively missed the point of a daily motorcycle. It's harsh, it's vibrational, the seat is super tough. This is a bike that is certainly reserved for short bursts, quick squirts, as it were. Here on the highway, we'll get it up into 6th gear. We're behind some sort of vehicle, and we're going 62 miles an hour. It's relatively vibrational, but nothing too crazy. We'll go ahead and try to pick up the speed a little bit, and the vibes are increasing. The vibes are increasing. As those revs go up, it's like everything starts shaking and shaking and shaking. It feels like the swing arm is shaking. My pegs are vibrating like crazy. The sides of my ankles are, the insides of them towards the bike are vibrating a ton. And because this bike doesn't weigh very much, it's just a little, a little flighty, a little floaty on the highway. It's certainly doable. It's not something like a little dual sport bike that's gasping and huffing and puffing for air. This motorcycle's got plenty of power on the highway. You guys can see here I'm getting up to 88 miles an hour indicated. It had plenty of room up top. It just doesn't feel very confidence inspiring at higher speeds like this and in congested traffic. It's not a motorcycle I would be super comfortable doing this all the time with, But all that being said, boys, let's go ahead and jump off the highway and we'll wrap this one up, shall we? Talk about what I think of the Hypermotard here. This bike is too much fun, dude. Too much fun. But what is it for? Does it matter? I don't think so. Ooh, look how I've burned up the tires a little bit doing little burnouts and stoppies, and well, not stoppies from the rear, but little slides or whatever. Anyways, this bike is so much fun. On the fun scale, it's a 10 out of 10. It is always exciting to ride. You want to reach for the keys, you want to jump on it, and as an emotional purchase, boy, this thing ranks high. As a practical purchase, it starts to get a little complicated, because I think that this motorcycle doesn't really do anything that great. It doesn't commute well, it doesn't do daily well, it doesn't really track day very well, unless you're talking about like a little kart track or a supermoto track or some extremely twisty mountain roads. I'm talking like switchbacks non-stop, because it doesn't do the fast flowy stuff all that great. It's a little flighty, a little twitchy, but I think as a second motorcycle in your stable that's just a complete hooligan fun toy, oh, this thing ranks so high on my list. Like, I could see you having a sensible, fun commuter vehicle, you know, that you maybe use like a, you know, Versys 650, a Touareg, you know, whatever, something, an adventure bike, long distance thing. And then this is just your mistress, man. This is your weekend mistress. This is the one you don't tell your wife about. This is a nasty, fun little machine. I really had so much fun riding this thing today. And yeah, I mean, part of me is like, I would never get one because it makes absolutely zero sense. And then the other part of me is like, but I love riding it so much. It's so much fun to ride. And I think oftentimes we buy motorcycles based on this, based on these emotional decisions, based on the feelings that we get out of them. And we're just like, yeah, it's just fun. I just want to use it. So that's going to wrap up my review of the Ducati Hypermotard 698 Mono. This thing is sweet. It looks great in this RVE colorway. It's a little pricey for my taste. I like cheaper motorcycles just because I treat them as sort of disposable things, and I've never thought Ducatis were disposable. They're just so nice. Big shout out again to Eurocycle for sponsoring today's video. We truly appreciate their support. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.
All right, everybody, this video is over. There's no more to watch on this beautiful video between me and you, but this Triumph Street Triple 765 RS is available on YamiNoob.co as a giveaway bike. Hit that link while you're waiting for the next video to load. Become a member. It'll take you as easy as 1, 2, 3, and then you're signed up to win. How cool is that? Papa Yam's giving away 54 bikes. You could be the next one.